I am 87 years old, and I made one mistake. Just one. I trusted the wrong person. And that one mistake cost me my husband, my home, and my entire life. My name is Salma. At this age, people think life becomes quiet, peaceful. But some wounds don't heal with time. They grow deeper. And today, I want to tell you a story. Not because I want sympathy, but because I don't want you to make the same mistake I did. My husband Yusuf and we weren't rich. We didn't have a big house or fancy things, but we had something rare. We had peace. We had trust. We built everything together, brick by brick, year by year, through struggle, through hardship. There were nights we slept hungry, days we worked until our hands hurt, but we never complained because we had each other. Yusuf was not just my husband. He was my friend, my support, my entire world. He used to say, Salma, as long as we are together, we don't need anything else. And I believed him with all my heart. And then my brother came back into my life, Imran. He was younger than me, but very different, always chasing money, always comparing his life to others. We weren't very close, but he was still my brother, my blood. One afternoon, he came to my house. His face was serious, different. He sat down quietly and said, Appa, I need to tell you something, but I don't know how you'll react. My heart started beating faster. I felt something was wrong. He looked straight into my eyes and said, Yusuf is cheating on you. In that moment, everything went silent. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't breathe. I laughed nervously and said, What are you saying? You must be mistaken. But he didn't smile. He didn't change his expression. He said, I wish I was wrong. I didn't want to believe him. I kept telling myself, this is not true. This cannot be true. But doubt is a dangerous thing. Imran continued, slowly, carefully. He said, I've seen him with another woman. I didn't want to tell you, but you deserve to know. My heart was fighting my mind. My love for Yusuf was strong, but those words, they planted something inside me. The next day, Imran came again. This time, he brought something with him. Photos, blurry, unclear, but enough to create doubt. He pointed at them and said, Look, this is him. My hands were shaking, my eyes filled with tears. I didn't know what to believe. I wanted to trust my husband, but fear is louder than trust. From that day, everything changed. When Yusuf came home, I looked at him differently. I started noticing small things I had ignored before. His silence, his tired face, his late arrivals. And slowly, without realizing it, I started losing trust. I stopped talking the same way, stopped smiling the same way. And Yusuf, he noticed. He asked me, Salma, is everything okay? And I said, yes, everything is fine. But nothing was fine. I would sit alone at night, thinking, crying silently, because I didn't know the truth, but I also couldn't ignore the doubt. And then, one night, I did something that changed everything. I followed him, my own husband, and what I saw that night made me believe that my brother was right. I followed my husband that night, and I wish I never did. It was late evening. The sky was dark, and my heart was heavier than ever. I saw Yusuf leave the house quietly. He didn't say much, just like the past few days. And something inside me said, follow him, find the truth. My hands were cold, my steps were slow, but my heart was racing. I kept my distance, walking behind him, hiding, watching, and then he stopped in front of a small house, a house I had never seen before. My breath stopped. He knocked on the door, and a woman opened it. In that moment, everything inside me broke. My mind didn't think, my heart didn't listen. I saw what I was already afraid of seeing. He went inside, and the door closed. I stood there, frozen. Tears rolled down my face, but I didn't even wipe them, because in my mind, everything was already over. I didn't wait. I didn't ask. I didn't listen. I turned around and went back home. Because sometimes a pain makes you believe what isn't even real. The next morning, Imran came again. He looked at my face and immediately knew. He said, "You saw it, didn't you?" I didn't answer, but my silence was enough. He sat next to me and said softly, "Appa, I tried to protect you, but now you've seen the truth." I felt weak, broken, and he used that moment. He didn't shout, he didn't force me, he just guided my thoughts. He said, "You need to protect yourself now, before it's too late." I asked him, "What should I do?" And that was my biggest mistake. He leaned closer and said, "Transfer everything to your name, the house, the land, everything." I hesitated. Something didn't feel right. But fear was stronger. That night, I confronted Yusuf. With tears in my eyes, I said, "Where were you yesterday?" He looked confused, hurt, and said, "I went to visit an old friend. She's sick. She needed help." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But my mind was already poisoned. I said, "Stop lying. I saw you." He stepped closer. His voice broke, and he said, "Salma, please trust me. There is nothing wrong." But I stepped back and said something I regret even today. I said, "I don't trust you anymore." In that moment, I saw something in his eyes. Pain, real pain. But I ignored it. A few days later, Imran came with papers. He said, "Just sign these for your safety." My hands were shaking. I looked at Yusuf. He said, "Don't do this, please." And in that moment, I had a choice to trust my husband or my fear. And I chose fear. I signed. The room went silent. Yusuf didn't shout. He didn't argue. He just looked at me and said quietly, "You never trusted me, did you?" I wanted to speak, to explain, but no words came out. That night, he slept in another room, and from that night, we were no longer the same. Days passed, he stopped talking, stopped explaining, and one day, he left. He didn't take anything with him, not even his clothes. He just left, and I let him go. But what I didn't know was the truth was still hidden from me. By the time I found out the truth, it was already too late. The house felt empty, silent, not peaceful, but heavy. Every corner reminded me of Yusuf, his voice, his presence, his love. But he was gone. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. I waited every single day, hoping he would come back, but he didn't. And slowly, doubt turned into regret. I started questioning myself. What if I was wrong? What if he was telling the truth? One afternoon, an old neighbor came to visit me. She sat down quietly, looked at me, and said something I will never forget. She said, "Salma, I need to tell you something about that night." My heart started racing again, just like that first day. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Your husband, he wasn't cheating." My body froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. She continued. That woman, she is his old friend's wife. Her husband had passed away, and she was very sick. Yusuf was helping her, nothing else. In that moment, my entire world shattered. Again. All those nights, all those doubts, all those accusations, they were all wrong. My husband was innocent, and I destroyed everything. I ran to find Imran. My hands were shaking and my heart was burning. I shouted, "Why did you lie to me?" He didn't deny it. He just looked at me and said, "I did what I had to do." I couldn't believe it. I asked, "Why? I'm your sister." And then he said something that broke me completely. He said, "I needed the property, and you were too blind to see the truth." In that moment, I realized everything. The fake proof, the lies, the pressure. It was all a plan. I didn't just lose my husband. I gave everything away to the person who destroyed me. I tried to find Yusuf. I went everywhere, asked everyone, but no one knew. He had disappeared. And that was the punishment of my mistake, not losing him, but never getting a chance to say sorry. Years passed, but the pain never left. Because some mistakes don't fade with time, they stay with you. So today, at 87 years old, I want to tell you something. When someone you love looks you in the eyes and asks for your trust, give it to them, because once you break trust, even truth cannot fix it. I didn't lose my husband. That night, I lost him the moment I stopped trusting him. And that one mistake cost me everything. If you're watching this and you're doubting someone you love, stop. Talk. Before silence destroys your life